What's up, YouTube, Gen X? So I get this PM from another brother that I talk to on occasion, and he wanted my opinion on his current situation. And in this current situation, he's dealing with this chick, and they're kind of in that sort of phase where it's looking like they're going to be together, but it's like, they're working out the small details, almost like what's going on with the NBA now. Like, it's understood that they reached an agreement. Now it's about filling out the minor details here and there. But he's kind of like not really sure, because she's on that sort of, I'm not trying to have sex until I get married. So no premarital sex. But she's already had relationships in the past where sex was not every day, but sex was a normal component of that relationship. So it's not as if, it's on some virgin status, or, she's only had one partner. No, the chick has been in relationships where sex was commonplace. Let's just keep it real. Right? But now she's on that sort of, I'm not really trying to engage in more premarital sex. So this young gentleman is asking me, what would I do if I was in his position? And here's what I have to say. Number one, to the ladies out there, y'all really fucked this up. Not just black women, but women across the board. You fucked it up. Right? And I know Willie P's talked about it. I want to say Avenue Rants has talked about it as well, with all that sort of sex. It's not that big of a deal. How come a woman can't have the same sexual desires as a man, or whatever? Right? Why is it okay for a man to be with X amount of women, but when a woman does it, she's this? Okay. You've got your way. Sex is every day. It's common. Not that big of a deal. But y'all fucked up when then you want to turn sex into something else. Right? I'm looking to get married now. I want something more stable. So now sex all of a sudden is this reward. Sex all of a sudden is this privilege, or this right that a man has to earn, and it's something that is special to me, and it's a sacred sort of union between a man and a woman. Like, come on now. You can't do that. You really can't. Because most of us will think that you're really trying to run game, and to be real with you, a lot of women do that in terms of trying to run game. Y'all not on some, sacred sort of, I found this new relationship with God. You're on some like, let me try this way. If I'm withholding the pussy, maybe that will serve as bait for him to make some sort of commitment to me. Let's keep it real. I don't care if you want to wrap it around religion. You have a lot of that sort of, I'm going to use it as bait, and provide him some sort of incentive to want to commit to me or marry me. And I'm like, yo, that's bullshit. You can't have it that way. You really can't. Now, obviously, if you're a woman, it's your choice, it's your body. But as a dude, you shouldn't accept that. So in the case of this young gentleman now, this is what I would do. Honestly, this is what I would do. I will look at the situation and find out her rationale behind why she's on some like, I'm not trying to engage in any more premarital sex. Right? Because oftentimes what fucks over women, especially black women, is not so much premarital sex, but that whole sex without any sort of relationship. Because once again, there's always that sort of emotional connection when you're looking at two people who are engaging in sexual activity, especially for the women. Men, not so much. It's still there, whether we like to admit it or not, but for women, it's definitely there. So a lot of women fuck themselves over by getting into these sort of sexual relationships where you weren't in any sort of committed relationship. It is what it is. But, once again, I'm looking at the rationale. The chicks who say no premarital sex, they usually have some sort of religious justification for that choice. I'm trying to get in touch with God or whatever, which is fine. But for me, I'm trying to see if this is some sort of holistic theme to your life, some sort of sweeping movement. Because if it is, the whole act of not engaging in premarital sex will be nothing more than a small component of this overall theme. So I can look at how you live your life. I can look at your friends. I can look at your behaviors. I can look at your attitudes and say, okay, she's on a new tip. right? She's definitely living her life in a certain way, right? And the whole act of not engaging in premarital sex is a part of that overall theme. It's a component. So as much as that may be difficult for me, I can look at that and I can respect that. Now, I may not stay, I may choose to stay, but I can respect her choice and what she has going on. It's a sweeping sort of theme to her life that affects every part of her life, her friends, everything. She's on this new tip, right, that is clearly evident. I don't have to look hard. I don't have to dig deep. It's everywhere. It influences every last thing that she does. So in that case, I can say, okay, she's legit. Right? As much as I don't like the choice, I have to respect that choice. You know, I like her. I think we could have something special, so it is what it is. But to be real with you, you don't see a lot of that. Your chicks that want to throw out that sort of no premarital sex, you don't see that. So for me, it's nothing more than a ploy or some sort of bait. I don't care, once again, if it's wrapped around religion. Because a lot of chicks that will do this sort of no premarital sex or whatever, okay, let's look at what they have going on. Okay, you've already been in relationships before where sex was the everyday component, right? Some of y'all fuck up initially when you have that sort of, ooh, I want to talk about how much of a bad girl I am or whatever, then turn around and act like he's wrong for not wanting sex out of the relationship, right? But you have a lot of chicks who will say, I'm doing it because of religious reasons or whatever, but you're looking at their life and you really can't see religion in any other aspect of their life. I'm looking at her friends, I'm looking at what she does, I'm looking at her language, I'm looking at her behaviors, I'm looking at her attitudes, I'm looking at her holistically, and there's no sort of theme to her life. She's living a very secular life. Right, you know, a very non-religious sort of life. Not saying that she's living foul or living wrong, but she's living a very everyday life. But now she wants to spot check when it comes to premarital sex. And at the end of the day, it's a ploy, it's a game, it's a gimmick. And I say that because I know what happens to a lot of decent men. Right, I've been in that position where, for me, it's one of those many things that I nip in the butt early on. Right? Because whether a chick is foul or even a decent chick, a lot of y'all will try that. Here's a decent guy. I'm going to somehow turn sex into something more so that I can get some sort of commitment out of him. I mean, a lot of y'all I can't even blame because y'all have got bad advice from other people who think that works. Maybe it did in the past, but now I think brothers are waking the fuck up. It's a game. It's a ploy. Let's keep it real. You're trying to say, hey, it's this reward, right? Whether you like it or not. And you're saying that I want some sort of commitment out of you, usually marriage, and then it is what it is. And you're sitting there and you're like, well, quite frankly, what you're withholding is something that you were giving up in the past. Not even on some like young girl, young, dumb, and naive, on some like, yo, like your last relationship, right, had a sex component to it. And you weren't a young girl who was young and stupid. You were a grown-ass woman. Right? You know, you were grown. So where was that then? Why are you doing it now? And at the end of the day, yeah, I guess a woman has her right to say, hey, it's my choice. Fine. That's great. But as a dude, you shouldn't accept that. You know, it's like me saying, it's like me reserving the right to say, hey, listen, I've been in relationships before where I got screwed over and dicked over, but I was doing everything that a man is supposed to be doing. So because of that, I ain't doing shit anymore until I get some sort of commitment from some chick or whatever. I have every right to make that choice. But as a chick, you can say, oh, I'm not going to accept that. I'm not her. Right? I want to be treated in a certain way. And you have every right to walk away. In the same degree in which I have every right to say, no, I don't want to do certain things because I did it before and I got screwed over. That's how I see it. So going back to the young man in question, like I said, that's what I'm checking for, dog. And I'm not trying to say that it's probably not going to work, but you just look at history, and history is going to tell you that when you sit down and you look at her life and what's going on what she does, how she operates, what she stands for, what she's about. You're not really going to see a lot of that, somehow inspired by her religion or whatever she follows. You're just going to see that random sort of spot check when it comes to religion. The overall secular life, but that one blip that says, oh, when it comes to premarital sex, I want to follow religion here. And you're looking at it and it's like, yo, that's not your true intention. See, a lot of the times when it gets wrapped around religion, you have that sort of, uh-oh, let me back off because now there's God involved. But for me, I'm like, nah, I'm not with all that because it's not legit. It's a lie. It's a ploy. Because if it is, right, and she's convinced that it is, and she's being legit with it, then she would be so because she knows that her life kind of, or not kind of, definitely embodies that sort of choice. I know some chicks that have made that choice to not engage in premarital sex, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, but I look at how they're living their life and I have to say, okay, I'll respect you because I see what you're doing. Right, I can understand what's going on. I'm not saying that it's easy, and for a lot of men that you meet, it's not going to be easy, but, it's respectable. Right, but for a lot of other chicks, it's not, and I think Avenue Rance made this point before, where he talked about, you'll have some chicks that will tell the decent dude, no premarital sex, as a ploy, and she's bold enough to be in a position where she's still getting it elsewhere. Right? So she's not getting it from you, but she's getting that need felt because she knows it's a game, it's a ploy. She has such a lack of respect for you to the point where she feels like he'll never know. He's too nice of a guy. He's too much of a pushover, so he'll never know. Let me wrap it around God, and I'm straight. Yes, that may be extreme, but once again, it does happen. Right? Because once again, I've been on that other extreme where, I'm dealing with the chick who's in a relationship. And once that happens, for a lot of dudes, for a lot of decent men, that changes the whole shit up. And I may even do a video on that. Right? When you're that sort of other guy, you realize how these women operate and how they really get down. Especially when you low-key kind of know her boyfriend. Like, you sit back and you're like, damn. Shit's never the same. And it's never the same. The day you fuck with the chick who's in a relationship, whether she's married or not, shit is never the same if you're a decent dude. So once again, to conclude, I'm not trying to make sex bigger than what it needs to be. I'm not doing that at all. A relationship is not all about sex. I definitely think that the whole act of sex has been taken way out of proportion, right? But it still has to be put in the proper proportion. And to me, it's very simple. As long as you choose, especially if you're a woman, men are kind of different, but even goes for men as well. As long as you can make some sort of commitment to not necessarily engage in sexual activity outside of some sort of committed relationship, you're going to be okay. But I think we get fucked up when we engage in these sort of sexual relationships where we're not in a committed relationship with that person and there's feelings there, whether we like it or not. Like I said before, if there is no if there's no emotional connection to the person you're sleeping with, you may consider being a porn star because you have a talent that most people don't have. And once again, yes, for men it's a little bit different because we do have those sort of primal, animalistic needs, right? Where, yes, you can see a chick and, you can have those sort of tendencies and want to take it to your car and just get it done and not really care if you ever see her again. But if the chick that you kind of see, day to day and you encounter each other here and there, it may be there. Let's just keep it real. I'm a dude, we've all been there where we try to act like it doesn't really matter, right? But then it's like, damn, who else is she with? And then it's kind of like, fuck, I'm not with her, but damn, I don't want her to be with any other dude. Like, so we've been there. That's why for me, it's like, yo, just put it in the proper framework and you're going to be okay. So going back once again to old boy, if I were you, I would just take a step back and just look at her life. I would look at her life and I can't say do what I would do, but for me, I'm very blatant. From the word go, I'm blatant. Whenever I meet a new chick, I don't care what tip she's on, I nail a lot of shit in the butt hella early. Hella early. Well before if there's any sort of emotional connection, and I let a chick know, here's how I view sex. It is what it is. I would never ask a chick to do anything she's not comfortable with, but if I'm in a sort of relationship with you where we're committed to each other and we know who we are, it is what it is. That's how I get down. So know that I'm a nice guy, but know that, hey, this is what I'm expecting out of you. So usually it's a problem that I don't have to deal with because, once again, I nip that shit in the butt early. So, hopefully you guys are able to follow me. If you're a chick, hopefully you're able to understand. No one is saying that you have to put yourself out there. All we're saying is that you guys have chosen to take sex in a different direction, right? So you have to deal with that choice and not have this sort of, let's revert back to some old school viewpoint of sex. No. And you're going to be okay if you understand that, hey, I shouldn't be sleeping with a man unless I'm in some sort of committed relationship with him. I definitely feel like if you do that, you're going to be okay. And don't make the mistake of trying to use your pussy as bait because it will fucking backfire. So if you are on that sort of, I don't want to engage in premarital sex, fine. Just understand that your life, your whole life, needs to reflect that sort of change. And if you can do that, it's not a problem. Then sex is not an issue at all. It'll be put in the proper framework, and you can worry about all the other more important issues that need to come into the fold when you look at coming together and forming some sort of meaningful relationship. Just get the sex, the idea of sex out the way, right? We know what it is. We know when it's okay. We know when it's not okay. Let's worry about other shit. Right? And if you can do that, you're going to be okay. Don't play that game. Don't play that gimmick. I don't care what other women tell you. That shit doesn't work. Because at the end of the day, you think about it. Let's just assume it did work and you got some sucker to believe that. Do you respect him? Really? Will you respect that man? Probably not. So why would you want to be with somebody you don't really respect? Because you know you can get away with that. So it is what it is. I don't know. I'm sure some people aren't going to listen carefully and they're going to come at me on some bullshit, but that's expected. Y'all know where to find me. Take it easy. God bless.